I was wrong. I made a video about the ThinkPad T470S and went on about how it was the best budget laptop you could buy, and surprisingly, only a couple of people called me out in the comments about how it really just wasn't. Because for literally $20 to $50 more, you could get a quad-core, yeah, not that pansy dual-core stuff, Intel i7 ThinkPad with all of the ThinkPad goodies like an upgradable screen, dual batteries, and a hot swappable battery in the back that is also upgradable, along with expandable storage and expandable RAM, along with actually a surprising amount of mods to choose from. This is it, the ThinkPad T480. And for anyone wondering, this does pass the classic IBM ThinkPad self-defense head smashing test, as you would expect, released a year after the T470 in 2018, with a starting MSRP of $1,049. Ouch! Wow, laptops depreciate a lot. It had a weird amount of CPU options from the dual-core i5 7200 and 7300U all the way up to the quad-core i7 8650U, which is actually what my model has. Had the option of a 720p, 1080p, or 1440p display, along with the option of getting a GeForce MX 150 dedicated GPU, and up to 32 gigabytes of DDR4 completely, upgradable memory. Not too shabby. To power that, you have two batteries, an internal 24 watt-hour battery and an external battery right here that can easily be taken out, hot swapped, like I said. And that can either be 24, 48, or 72 watt-hours for a claimed max battery life of 29 hours without a dedicated GPU, or 26 with. Although I don't know how much I believe those numbers. Either way, my specific model came with a 1080p screen, smallest battery options, and 16 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM that appears to be mismatched. I mean, honestly, this thing is crazy for a laptop released in 2018 though, and even crazier is in just the very next year, the T490 was released, which had one battery that couldn't get roided up for more power, a soldered stick of RAM limiting your upgradability, even if slightly, still hurts. There also wasn't any heatsink upgrades on the T490 that I'm aware of, and no dedicated GPU option that I'm aware of. It's kind of like when your dog gets old and you throw a ball and it just kind of looks but knows it just doesn't have the energy to get up and go get, no wait, no, that was pretty sad. It's like when you throw a ball and your grandfather, no, that's worse. Me angry, me no like change bad, Lenovo bad, I know by Lenovo. I already went over the specs of my specific machine, so let's talk the body. Mine arrived in decent condition, but the keyboard wasn't sitting right, so I had to take the screws loose and adjust it, and then put it back in, and it was all good to go. It also had quite a bit of scratches, so I took a magic eraser to the top, and it cleaned up pretty nicely, actually. I mean, to me, this is basically brand new. I love it. And older ThinkPads used to have this thing called build quality, and the T480 is surprisingly not an exception. Even if it's far from some older ThinkPads, it is relatively thick and pretty hefty for being plastic. And it's not aluminum like a lot of higher end laptops, which I personally don't like because as soon as you get a little scratch, it's just ruined, basically. It is rigid as hell though. I mean, look what happens when I hold it by the very corner with the screen all the way out. No flex, just pure power. There really aren't nice thick laptops like this anymore, honestly. I'd actually say this is the perfect thickness for a laptop. It doesn't feel like it'll break in my hands, but it doesn't feel like it will break my hands, you know? Also, the screen still does this. And lastly, the ports. By God, the ports. I must be in heaven. All right, now take a deep breath and prepare your ears because here we go. On the right, we got headset jack, USB 3.1, HDMI 4.1, another USB 3.1, gigabit Ethernet, full-size SD card reader. Lord, my T14 has a puny micro SD card slot, and they say size doesn't matter, but that is just pure cope. Back in the back, we got nothing, but on the left, we got two USB-C, and I believe this is a docking port, which no, I tried that. It is for a docking station. Some models also support a SIM card if you want to pay the cost of this laptop per month for unlimited internet. It also has a fingerprint scanner, keyboard, and trackpad I'll get back to. Frankly, I'm in love already, but we still need to see if this can handle everything my T14 does, because I may have made an expensive mistake getting the T14. Also, literally typing this right now, I realized the keyboard is backlit, which is pretty cool. And if you want a backlit keyboard, buy yourself a T480, affiliate links and whatever. So it's built well, whoop-de-doo. So is a MacBook. But how does it do well, like stuff, man? Well, if your is how I wrote that, stuff is internet browsing outside of Utah, you will unsurprisingly be perfectly fine. All of the internet stuff works just as it did on the T430, T470S, and pretty much anything in between. Like regular scrolling through biographies, trying to find out how to make freaking cookies. No, seriously, how hard is it to make a goddamn chocolate chip cookie? It's like 3 ingredients. I need to make it before Mom realizes I forgot her birthday. Hi Mom, sorry. It does work fine though for that, as well as watching YouTube videos, even in 1440p. It's especially good for Word docs though, since the T480 shares the same keyboard as the T470, so you get to keep the absolutely amazing keyboard from the T470. And it's not quite like the T430, but I actually kind of prefer the style over the T430 and even my T14. The keys have a really satisfying travel and click, but also keeps the laptop relatively thin, so I don't feel like I'm lugging around a tank in my backpack. And I think the only thing I would prefer is maybe if they were ever so slightly heavier, just not too heavy, but I can live with that because, oh, this is pretty controversial. This is my favorite keyboard I have ever used on a laptop. Yes, seriously. Maybe I haven't tried enough gaming laptops or old T70 Lenovo, I don't know, whatever it is. But of the ones I've tried, I did not like those nearly as much. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm out of touch. All I know is, hey, touch, yeah, trackpad. It's all right. It's standard ThinkPad trackpad thing, but you can replace it with a glass trackpad from the X1 series, which supposedly is amazing, but honestly, I kind of dig the way these feel. Maybe it's Stockholm Syndrome, but you do have the option of getting a glass trackpad if this one does bug you. Also, I always forget, this does have a screen. This is a 1080p something. It's a screen on a ThinkPad. You can read text, get a MacBook if that's a problem. Jokes aside, the screen is so much better than the T430, but it feels pretty similar to the T470S. It's not really offensive. Everything looks okay. It's a matte 8-bit 1080p 60 panel. I mean, it gets the job done. It's decently bright. You might have some troubles outside, but you'll be okay. The speakers are there. Yeah, they're just... yeah, I'd never use these to listen to music. I'd prefer to use actual headphones, but unlike the T470S, you can turn them up a little and still hear the voices without a ton of distortion. Like the voice of me telling you to subscribe because I like when numbers go high. My battery is shot on this, but I did get a good few hours of basic tasks out of my T480 anyways with the 2 basic batteries. I did see somebody online say they were getting 10 to 14 hours though with the upgraded internal battery. If that interests you, I would highly suggest checking out this article that I read through about some T480 upgrades. It's a great read and dives deeper than I did for this review. Maybe I'm too honest sometimes. Also, if you're a casual gamer, more basic games like Stardew Valley work great as you would expect, so light gaming isn't really a problem at all. But anything more than very casual gaming isn't a great experience. Minecraft runs good enough, I guess. It can run in the 30 to 50 FPS range at 1080p 12 chunks with some mild stuttering loading new chunks. But if you want to break into anything slightly more intensive, I mean, it's a business laptop from 2018. BioShock Infinite from 2013 can just barely run at the lowest settings 1080p. It barely managed 40 FPS, and BeamNG couldn't even break 10 FPS at lowest settings. Sorry, Beam, maybe next time. So gaming isn't the strong suit, but you can sure as hell stream games to this if you need a gaming fix and you're in your house. So that counts for something, I guess. If you're really worried about gaming though, you can get some retro fixes. Obviously you have tons of retro 8, 16, 32-bit game support because this laptop came out in the past decade. For something slightly newer that will never be retro to me though, GameCube games run amazingly well. Dolphin ran beautifully for the most part at 720p, although I did notice some occasional stuttering. It was just enough to annoy me slightly, but it was there. Maybe it was just shader compilation, but it was still there. And if you were a PS2 kid, Jak and Daxter ran really well, but it didn't really like going over 1.25 resolution. But I mean, it's such a small screen. I would just add a CRT filter, call it retro. There you go. And if you want to edit video or photo, Premiere ran pretty alright. I had to edit the 4K video with proxies at a quarter res, but I was able to do it and do it decently. Scrubbing was also really nice and pretty smooth, all things considered. Overall, it's what I'd call good enough video editing performance for what it is in the pinch, especially if you're editing 1080p video with proxies. Lightroom was also great. I could easily edit photos without really any delay. It was very smooth. Very impressed by this. This is a very good laptop for editing photos on. I also tested Cinebench just for fun and got a 3180, surprisingly close to an 11th Gen i7 1165 running at 15 watts, but this was not able to keep the i7 cool, making me somewhat want an upgraded cooler and left me questioning if there's any real reason to get a higher end i7 if it's just going to overheat this bad. As you might be expecting, the T480 does have some serious repairability game. Mine actually arrived broken. A battery cable was loose along with the M.2 SSD being loose. Taking it apart though was really easy. I would actually say easier than the T430. You just have to take a few screws out of the back, pop the back off, and you're just in. From here you can very easily add storage, change out your battery, upgrade both sticks of DDR4 RAM, and even change out your thermal paste if you're getting overheated, which I was getting constantly. And it's just as simple as taking the fan off here. And you're right to the CPU. Here it's all normal, just take the thermal paste off, add a little bit of new thermal paste, then just put it all back together. This is just an insanely simple process to replace thermal paste, which I personally consider thermal paste to be a maintenance item like a battery, because it gets hard, it dries out, and it's not useful anymore. So being able to change it easier is insanely important to me. Unlike most laptop manufacturers, apparently, can't even single any out, all of them. But if you're not satisfied with that, you can also upgrade the screen to a 1440p model screen and very easily change out the keyboard and even upgrade to a bigger cooling system for the model that came with the dedicated GPU for some slightly better cooling. Oh, and upgrade to the glass trackpad. Man, just so much upgrade, not enough time. Although we can't change out the CPU, unfortunately, as it is not socketed. And frankly, those days have long passed us. I'm counting the days on our RAM being swappable right now. Our only hope there really is Framework, who didn't respond to my email. Framework, please send me a laptop. I'm not rich and already have too many. I also don't want to buy one of your laptops until the Ryzen ones are out either way. So just please understand. Talk to me, love. I just wish laptop companies could still make stuff like this. I think this really would be the perfect laptop with a more modern Ryzen 5 or 7 CPU in it. It's nice, it's durable, built well, easy to fix up. The ports, absolutely amazing. If you need a laptop, you cannot go wrong with this. Unless you're editing video, then you can go wrong with this. But for $200, what the hell am I even talking about?